Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel. I am product manager at Limbix. Just to get a feel for the audience, how many people here have tried virtual reality before? All right, that's great, so most of you. And how many people have used VR or seen VR in a healthcare or medical setting? Okay, couple, all right. So for those that are not as familiar with VR, it's a computer-generated virtual environment that's extremely immersive. So when you turn your head, the world changes in real time with you, and it makes you actually feel as if, and at a sensory level, believe that you're somewhere else in a completely different world. So virtual reality for healthcare is very much coming. In fact, it's already being used by a handful, well, quite a few early adopters, including some of the more well-known brand name institutions in the United States. And it's being used across a variety of applications. Stanford, for example, has a virtual reality experience that helps children prepare for cardiac surgery for preoperative anxiety. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's being used for, the gold standard for that is imaginal exposure therapy. But a lot of people, when the trauma is so intense that they can't emotionally engage with their past memories, virtual reality is being used to help them re-engage with that. So for example, it first started with 9/11, and after that they recreated a virtual 9/11 so people could be next to the buildings and relive that, and that was able to help them process those incidents, and similarly with Iraq and Afghanistan, to overcome phobias, fear of heights, fear of driving. Pain management is another big one that's being used across the country already. The idea there is that pain, the subjective experience of pain is very much about attention, and attention is a limited resource. So if you can divert that limited resource of attention to an immersive experience, the subjective experience of pain plummets. And they've shown that with burn victims, or imagine a child who is getting phlebotomy and they're kicking and screaming, and it's taking a really long time to do what should be a simple procedure. You put them in an immersive experience, a game, and they immediately forget about what's going on and you're able to do the procedure. The problem, however, is that the current VR systems are really not designed for the use in healthcare. So you can't just go down to Best Buy and buy the latest VR headsets off the shelf. You can't buy an Oculus Rift or a Vive or the Oculus Go. You're going to run into a lot of problems. First of all, they're not compliant with infection control standards. A lot of them they all have cloth in some way or another on them. So that's just a no-go from the start. Second is they require an internet connection, and as many of you would know, connecting to the internet in healthcare settings is either not possible at all or has huge hurdles to do so because of security reasons. The third is that the usability is really poor. Oftentimes it has to be tethered to a clunky Windows machine, or if you want to launch the patient into an experience, you don't want to have to teach someone who's about to have a procedure done about how to use VR for the first time. That's just not the right time to do it. And alternatively, you don't want to have to put the person onto, you don't have to put the headset onto yourself, click the person into it, then put it back on them, which is really impractical. And then on the content side, a lot of the content is just, there's a handful of content that's created for healthcare, but very little there isn't much out there. And a lot of the content that's on the App Store is just not appropriate. It's going to cause a lot of nausea, which patients are already susceptible to. Could be traumatic. The range of motion needs to be more limited in a lot of use cases. So it's just really not there to a significant level. And Limbix is really a bet that this market is going to expand from the early adopters and to the majority. That's the thesis that our investors have. And they believe that if that does expand, does make that leap, cross the chasm, Limbix is going to be placed to be the leader of that category. So at Limbix, we've created a complete solution, both on the delivery side, which I'll get to in a moment, and on the content side. On the delivery side, we have a tablet which enables the clinician to see what the patient is seeing and to launch them into various experiences and configure it in real time. And they're able to do all of that without an internet connection via Bluetooth. And then on the headset side, we don't manufacture the headset, but we've made aftermarket adjustments to it to make it fully infection control compliant. So our internal expertise is on the technical delivery of VR and the creation of the content. We also have expertise in the UX of VR, what makes a virtual reality experience great. But for specific expertise in specific diagnoses, we partner with subject matter experts. And it's been wonderful. We've had an amazing response. People are very, very eager to work with us, and it's been really thrilling to work with a lot of the leading researchers in their fields. We have to be focused, so we're focused on a few areas. One is on pain and distraction, and it's been a lot of fun, quite frankly, to create these immersive experiences, these immersive, distracting experiences, both for acute pain and then relaxation and downregulation for more chronic pain. And then we're also focused on skills training. So if you think of the evolution of learning a skill, the best is if someone can teach you, person to person. But if you don't have that, what else do you have? You could read a book, a self-help book. It's not great. Then a level up more recently is digital media such as video, right? Go to YouTube. But now you have an experiential, immersive environment to learn skills, which just takes it to a completely new level. So we're taking that. So here you see a person learning how to overcome social anxiety and interact in a bar. Other skills we're learning are mindfulness skills, relaxation skills, and we're quite broad in the areas that we're looking at. We're looking at anxiety, depression. Our acronym is ADAPT, so anxiety, depression, addiction, pain, and trauma. So I believe a lot of you are entrepreneurs here or aspiring entrepreneurs. So just a little background on where we started with Limbix. We actually started with private practice therapists. And we realized pretty quickly that it wasn't going to work out. They were very quite cash constrained and really not willing to spend money on something that was as of yet not reimbursable. However, patients loved the virtual reality experience, and we got an incredible amount of press. And with that press, we got a lot of inbound inquiry from large healthcare enterprises and large clinics. And what they said is, they said, wow, we love the VR you're creating, but the delivery mechanism just doesn't work for us for all the reasons I mentioned before. So we realized, this is where our market is, and we pivoted to focus specifically on that market, which was the larger market, and Limbix VR Kit was born. We do have waiting customers. We haven't officially launched yet. We have an MVP with limited features with some of our trusted partners, but we'll be launching to paying customers that we have pre-sales to towards the end of the year. A little bit about our team. That's one of the great things and one of the reasons why I love working at Limbix. Our CEO, Ben Lewis, is a serial successful entrepreneur. A couple of his startups were funded by Sequoia, and he was actually an entrepreneur in residence there when he started Limbix, so we got funding from them. We have engineering talent from Oculus, Google Daydream, Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft, and we also have expertise in general UX, digital UX, as well as specifically the UX of virtual reality from Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab. And we also have expertise in clinical and research. Just a little bit about our funding. I'm not sure if there are any investors in the room, but we got our first $3 million a couple of years ago from Sequoia, and we just raised another $3 million this year. We're pretty much done with that, but we're really interested in connecting with investors or advisors that have particular expertise selling into enterprise health organizations. So that's it. If anyone would like to have a demo, I have the kit here, so I'd love to show you. I don't know
Any
what.
questions? Is it reimbursable now?
So
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, is it reimbursable now? If it's being used under an existing billing code, sorry, who asked the question? Oh, okay. If it's being used under an existing billing code with a therapist or a clinician that could use it with the patient, so if they're just doing general therapy, it's not reimbursable as a separate item at the moment, but that is changing. In fact, the Netherlands healthcare system just started covering virtual reality-based behavioral healthcare for the first time. So it's definitely moving forward, and that we just found out about that this week. So it's pretty exciting, and definitely see that happening in more countries and in the US in the future.
Have you been in touch with the Veterans Administration?
Yeah, absolutely. We have spoken to them, and they're really big with PTSD, with Brave Mind, which Skip Rizzo, who developed that, is one of our advisors, which is really exciting. Yeah, the VA can take a long. The sales cycles are very, very long. So while we'd like to get in there eventually, we're I guess focused on.
Well, they're doing a lot now, so they must be using your competitors.
Yeah, but I think with the current administration, there's some difficulties with moving forward with the sales cycles with new technologies. Our understanding, but definitely optimistic about working with them. Yeah.
What market do you go into right now? What's your largest focus?
So long term. Yeah. What market is our largest focus? One of our first customers is an oncology clinic, so for the pain distraction. But beyond that, we're getting a lot of interest from the addiction treatment space for the relaxation, dealing with cravings, and also if you can imagine, you saw the bar scene before, you can imagine dealing with triggers in inpatient space. So how do you deal with the things that are going to trigger you when you leave, but while you still have a clinician with you? So there's a lot of interest from there, and that's probably, in the short term, the most exciting area for us.
How about medical education?
Yeah, for training, medical training. That's not our area of focus, but there are several startups that are in that space. You might want to look at OSSO VR, which is for surgical training. And then I believe there are other surgical, on the more medicine side also, training there. Sure.
So I'm addicted to something, it's Fortnite. And,
Okay.
I'm just wondering, I'm shocked at how you can just be pulled just into this screen. Why
Yeah.
do you actually need immersion at all when sometimes the UI UX that can get so good on a small device?
It's a good question. I guess if I'm not to say that you can't find two-dimensional experiences immersive, but so the question was flat 2D experiences can be immersive as well. Why do you need virtual reality to be immersive? There have been studies that have used the two-dimensional distraction as a control, and the virtual reality wins out over it. So I guess for the general population, it's not for everyone, but for the general population, virtual reality is a more immersive medium than for 2D. But it's not to say that it can't be. Yeah.
What's the mechanism for pain management? You can't wear the thing 24 hours a day.
Right. So it's for acute pain, like when a procedure's happening. And then there's research looking now at what the long-term effects are as well. So there are these sort of after effects. I'm not super familiar with the exact kind of biological mechanisms, but there is kind of research being done now with what the long-term effects are, in terms of you might use it for 20 minutes and then it has persistent effects afterwards.
Imagine if you train the brain to tune out the pain, it's too fast.
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Question.
Sure.
How do you measure the effectiveness of your treatment using the VR? Do you have any mechanism that you build in or any reports?
To measure it, so we partner with research institutions to run those studies. So we have a director of research on our team that looks through all those different metrics. I think the most interesting metrics, are that from a business perspective are the healthcare economics metrics, because until there's a hard ROI, it's really not going to take off. But there are also like the pain and specific metrics on that end. So, but I'd probably refer you to our director of research on the specific outcomes. That's it.
No question?
All right, cool.
Great,
Well, thank you.
thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I'd love to give you a demo. Yeah.